Hi beautiful people, and welcome back to the channel Maria German Nature. Today I'm gonna open up about a deeply personal and emotional topic: how funerals are celebrated in Germany and how they are celebrated in Nigeria. I never thought that would actually touch me that way, but it is really a life-changing experience. You remember, we came here and the grandmother of my husband died, and that actually made us relocating to Nigeria. So now, 4 months later, the funeral was held. In Germany, our funerals are very quiet. We speak in hushed tones. We respect silence. We moan in silence. We wear black, and compared to Nigeria, our funerals are held in a couple of hours in one day. What happens when a person dies in Germany? The person is usually taken to the mortuary, just like in Nigeria, until the funeral is held. And then the organization of the funeral is rather quick, you could say. We engage a funeral home because mostly the past person had already a very defined idea of how the funeral should be done, and also paid most probably parts of the costs, so that you don't have to cover too much. Usually we have family graves, like each family has their own grave, which you have for the time of 25 years kind of rented out. If you fail to add another person within those 25 years, the grave just gets dissolved and doesn't exist anymore. Otherwise, you try to add to a family grave. What happens is, after the mortuary, most of our people in Germany are getting cremated and are not buried in a coffin, but in an urn. So that simplifies the whole ceremony, you could say. Basically, you meet at the mortuary or at the church, and there either a priest in the church or the undertaker is like the MC, or like he helps the service. What you have is, you have the coffin or the urn in the center. Then you have a photo of the past person with a black ribbon or black bandage at the side. And then each child of the person that passed contributes a flower bouquet with words like "rest in peace, your daughter," or "your son, taka taka, rest in peace." These words are spoken. Usually either a relative or the undertaker summarizes the life of the past person. Then you have music, but very sad music, classical music most of the time. That's basically it. Maybe 1 hour at most for this kind of service. Once this service is done, the undertaker or priest takes the urn mostly, and is followed by the children of the past person, and then you march towards the grave on the cemetery. There you have the open grave where you put the urn or the coffin, and then, just like in Nigeria, that's actually the same, you add soil. Each of the mourning group has the possibility to add soil, a flower, and some last words. Then the grave is closed. After the grave is closed, you go usually to a restaurant. Then the atmosphere gets a bit more easy, you could say. You have time to eat, drink. There's also some small music. The atmosphere is relaxed, not so sad like with the ceremony, but it can't be compared to what I experienced here in Nigeria. Though we do catch up, we listen to the stories of the person, like you actually find at the service you have only the closest relatives, the closest friends, working colleagues, but really close cycle of people, a group like maybe of 30 people, 40 people. In the restaurant later you can add some more people, and you will be surprised who you actually see and meet there, because it gives you different aspects of the person that has passed. Maybe you have never seen that. I remember my granny died last March, and in the restaurant there was a brother. I never knew she had a brother that actually told us stories about the life in Berlin after the Second World War, and I never knew that. My granny wasn't in Berlin that time, just her brother was. So it was an interesting aspect of my granny that I didn't know of. And this is not the first time that this happens to me on funerals. You will see that everybody wants to try to pay the last respect. So you find really the whole variety of the life of the past soul. After that, you go home. That's it. So I think like within 3-4 hours, you're usually done. And then the relatives have the task to resolve the apartment or the senior home room. So remove the personal stuff, return, because we mostly rent. We don't own too many. Too many of us don't rent. We don't own, we rent. So you remove the personal belongings, return it to the landlord or to the senior home for the next person to move in. It can be difficult to resolve the bank accounts and insurances that are maybe there, but this is the paperwork that takes a bit longer, maybe a couple of months. Then it's pretty much done. With my mom, it was a bit different. My mom wasn't baptized, so we didn't have the opportunity to go for a church. So we rented it, basically a community house. And then my mom was also cremated. So we had our own, and the scenario that I described before, but not in a church, but in that community center. And in this community center, we also held the celebration. Like the community center cooked and provided drinks. That was a cheap alternative. I liked it. And that was also the reason why we had really 80 or 90 people at the service as well as the celebration, because everything was in one house and you couldn't exactly say, okay, you are only invited to the service, you're not invited to the celebration afterwards. And the main thing, or the main difference for my mom, is that she wanted to be buried at a forest cemetery. My granny rented out a tree on a forest cemetery for 99 years, and she buried her past husband there. And my mom liked that idea, so she also wanted to be buried there. So what is the special thing about it? It's actually a forest and not a cemetery like we know it. It's just a forest with trees. And there's no flowers, no decoration, no gravestone, nothing allowed. They have a little sign on the tree, okay, like a little, like just with the name and when that person was born and died. And that's it actually. You can't put flowers, or you don't have to come at a certain time to clean up the grave or something. You just have the tree. Because my mom had the idea, okay, let my kids and everybody, let them memorize me by taking a walk in the forest, listen to the nature. And that you can do all over the world when you have forest, of course. So she was more like, remember me by taking a walk in the nature. That's a nice thing. I think I would like that for myself as well. I think, yeah. Oh, God knows when my life is taken and what then the situation will be, but it's a nice idea. I like that idea as well. So we actually made it a habit, my granny, my stepdad and me, and of course our wonderful family here, that we go for the day of her death. Once a year we go to the grave, to the cemetery. We actually book ourselves into a hotel close by, spend there a couple of days together, like catching up, eating, drinking, chatting, seeing all the kids, and my granny loves it, I love it. We don't really have other times to catch up, so it's a really nice time. And of course we take the walk on the cemetery and visit the tree to remember my mom. What's usually done, if you have a proper cemetery with gravestones and stuff like this, there's one main person responsible for the grave. So that person would go there, clean up old plant or dirt or whatever, put flowers or whatever needs to be done, and light a candle. So that is what you usually do anyway. If you want to go and visit the grave, you bring flowers. So you take some old flowers and put new ones and light a candle, speak something, and yeah, that's how you remember after the funeral, of course. What we have is a public holiday, the 1st of November. This is just before the ice and snow comes. So what we do, we might go as a family, or at least the person being mainly responsible for the grave, and clean it up so that for the winter nothing can happen to the grave. So that's also a nice tradition, and it's a public holiday, so everybody has time. So this is how we conduct in Germany funerals. As a matter of fact, most of our people are dying very old, because we have a life expectancy of, I don't know, almost 90 years. So most of the people that die actually die living in a senior home. So while they are alive, they have the opportunity to resolve their house, their apartment. My granny always says, I'm not going to leave anything to you guys. I just want to live my life while I'm alive. And that's beautiful. But if there's something to be inherited, there's a last will usually. And if there's something inherited, you have to compulsory give 10% to each child. And no matter what is written in the last will. And yeah, that's it actually. That's how we do it. In Nigeria, the thing is quite different. The granny of my husband, like a mom to him. We had really, like last December, like in 2024, and I said to him, we might not have another opportunity to see her, so let's go and visit her. Even before, we never knew that she would actually wait for us in order to pass. That was really an experience that I will never forget. So even before we arrived, she told everybody, no, my grandson is going to come and buy a big cow. But it makes sense now. So here in Nigeria, they really make it a big celebration. Like a big, big celebration. There's nothing like being silent. There's nothing like I'm alone with my grief. It's really, really different. After the granny died in the hospital, she was taken also to the mortuary. And the kids of the granny, among the mother of my husband, went to the village, gathered there, agreeing on a date for the funeral. 4 months later, 3 months later, and the amount that each sibling has to contribute. And I was rather shocked to hear that each of them has to contribute, or is supposed to contribute like 1.5, 2 million. And I said to my husband, that's really a lot of money for Nigerians. 1.5, 2 million naira is a lot. Not everybody can have this. And he said, yeah, well, everybody should try to contribute the best way they can to put that money together. It's quite different from what I was used, so I kept quiet. Then the sisters of my husband came to me and brought a native and said, we're going to tailor you a dress for the Thanksgiving. Okay, Thanksgiving, I remember we had that on our wedding. Is like a church service where you have the Holy Communion and say thank you to God, to the church community for supporting the event, in this case a funeral. Then they said, yeah, we want to wear golden and the man should wear white. And I was like, okay, when is that going to be worn? And they said, yeah, for the actual celebration on the Saturday before the Sunday, we're going to wear the golden for the women. So we're going to tailor that dress and the men are going to do the white suit. Okay. And then on top, they printed the t-shirt, which we were wearing on the Friday when she was actually buried. So 3 outfits, 3 days for one event. That was already a lot. Like I didn't understand it, but now of course it makes sense. So it's a totally different setup than I'm used to. And what do they do? Okay, so from the mortuary, they took the coffin, which was a beautiful coffin actually, white, golden, a native on top. From the mortuary, she's taken to the church for the service, just like in Germany. Then from there, the coffin is paraded to her father's house to confirm that is our daughter. That is, that has passed. And from there, she is carried to where she's going to be buried. And in her case, because she has a house, she's going to be carried, like she was carried to her own house. That's a bit, that's for us completely unusual. We don't have that at all, but here it's very much how it's supposed to be. So the person is actually buried in front of his or her own house. So that is also the case with Granny here. We were wearing the t-shirt with black trouser. Okay. That was quite a marching, I would say. Then, of course, there was a lot of food and catching up. I mean, we arrived already. There were so many people, so many kids. Everybody was talking, praying, I don't know, dancing, celebrating, yes, being together. And it wasn't at all like I'm used to it, like when everybody's silent and trying not to be so loud talking, you know. So, well, yes. Then we had a sleepover, and on Saturday the actual celebration was held, and that was crazy. There were so many people, like everybody was actually invited. They printed several posters inviting so many people, and on the poster I saw she was 101 years old, and I was thinking, wow, I estimated like 80 or 90 years. And then later, my husband said that he discussed with some relatives that actually she doesn't have a birth certificate. So they even estimate that she was much older because her younger brother, this is actually the age that they took, because the younger brother has a birth certificate, so they took this one, but she seniored this brother, so she was definitely older. So maybe she was 110 or something. It's really difficult to say, but that's a crazy age anyway. Like everything beyond 90 is already so old. So well done, Granny. Well lived. You really tried. on the day of the celebration, it were so many people, so much dancing, so much money spreading, so much food, like the best jollof rice I've ever eaten. And my husband even explained to me, yeah, on funerals you get the best food, the best, because everybody tries, everybody wants to contribute the best thing, you know. So not on weddings, on funerals you get the best food. And even as if that was not enough food, I mean, I was so full. You get takeaway boxes, so everybody is having their part, either cooking, serving, preparing the takeaway boxes, celebrating, dancing, praying. Like, it was so full, everybody was so busy, and it was a really joyful day, and nothing compared to what I'm used to. And on Sunday, we were wearing the native, like before we were wearing the golden on Saturday. So on Sunday, we were wearing the native for the church service, having the Holy Communion. And that is when we actually left the village. So that was a full program of 3 days, and I have to say it really left a remarkable footprint on how I see things. I have actually learned that isn't an end. It's actually a reflection on life. So what happens after the funeral in Nigeria? They told me that the firstborn boy can claim the house. I find that funny because normally I'm used to, okay, the firstborn, but it's about the firstborn boys. I mean, it explains a lot to me, because my husband was happy because our firstborn was a boy, but we have friends that are having only girls, so they feel really like I'm only a real father if I have a boy. So for them, it's really important, for Nigerian culture, it's really important to have a boy, because he takes over the house and everything, while girls are, by the bride price, become part of another family. So that's a different culture, obviously. So the house was actually, before the funeral, was painted freshly. And I was like, wow, why would you do that? And it's because of this, because the first boy will live there. So the uncle of my husband will live there. So what they said they will do is they will gather once a year in the village for the elders of the village. They will make some small memorial celebration, like with food, drinks, and gathering. And I find that very nice. It shows how they use that as reconnection, as time to catch up, and gathering, instead of separating alone and grieving like we do, but to come together and celebrate and honor the person, the life of that person is really touching. First, I felt overwhelmed, kind of disrespecting, until I realized they weren't ignoring the loss. They were honoring it with life. Personally, I just feel like crying when I think of a past person that I loved. And I could never understand, like, I saw it as a fake. When they say, hey, on my funeral celebration, I want you to celebrate like a real party with enjoyment and everything. That is not, I cannot imagine that to happen in Germany, but this is what Nigerians do. Exactly that. And it's a beautiful way to farewell a loved person. You see, when we have hardly 50 people together, I mean, on this funeral, I think there were like 350 people. And I was like, wow, that's a big one. And there's like, no, that's even a small funeral. And I'm like, wow. Nigeria, you really shocked me and amazed me. I have learned death isn't just the end. It's a reflection of what we value, what we love, and how we stay connected. In Germany, we value privacy, order, respect for silence. In Nigeria, it's about celebrating life, legacy, and about bringing people actually together. And neither of it is right or wrong. They both carry big, deep meanings. For me, the Nigerian way has showed me that death can be a bridge to celebrate life, to time to reconnect, to share stories, and to keep somebody alive through memory. In both cultures, religion plays a role, but differently. In Germany, church is leading through the ritual, while community involvement is minimal. So you go home alone with your grief. In Nigeria, faith is strong, but it goes hand in hand with the community. Church, family, neighbors, just everybody contributes and participates. So you are never alone with your grief. Grief becomes actually a shared thing. I remember women singing songs of dawn, prayer cycles, of course the dancing. Not to forget the pain, but to honor the soul's journey. So today I carry both. When I think of my mom's grave, or tree, I don't think of a silent tree. I more like imagine it like a room filled with all her stories and laughter and food, her favorite food, the Nigerian way. And for the next Nigerian funeral, I'm sure I will have that quiet moment of reflection, lighting a candle, the German way. So these two worlds combined actually help me to process loss. They give you another perspective, and they definitely build your own rituals, which is beautiful. So I hope, my beautiful people, you have enjoyed that video, and I hope it touched you as I could transport how this funeral touched me. If you are not coming from Germany, and you are also not coming from Nigeria, if you are coming across that video, share how you are celebrating your funerals in the comment section. I would love to hear that. And if you liked the video, as usual, like it as well with a thumb up, subscribe, and share it with everybody that you think would also like to see that video. So until we see each other next time, please enjoy every day, celebrate every day. And see you next time. Dankeschön.